Hello, I'm Darren Magee, and today's question asks if I would discuss the common characteristics of a narcissistic sociopath, sometimes referred to as a narcopath, but more commonly referred to as a malignant narcissist. Now, this is when narcissism and sociopathy are comorbid. So in this video, I'm going to look briefly at the differences between sociopathy and narcissism, and then outline the common characteristics and behaviours whenever they co-occur together. So if you like this video, if you find it helpful or interesting, please consider subscribing to my channel. But just as a reminder, this video is for information purposes only and is not a substitute for support from a mental health professional. Now, a narcissistic sociopath would describe someone who demonstrates several traits, characteristics, symptoms of both antisocial personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder. Now, I've made videos on those personality disorders previously, as well as the characteristics of sociopathy. So I'll put links to those videos in the description of this video if you want to check those out. But with narcissism, what we often see is grandiosity, there's arrogance, a sense of self-importance and entitlement. There's being highly disagreeable and highly resistant to criticism, and there is a constant need for external validation. A sociopath, now that's a term that would come under antisocial personality disorder. With sociopathy, what we see is aggression, impulsivity, disregard for rules, law, social norms. Sociopaths are often described as being cold and emotionless, and they're either unable or unwilling to take into account the feelings or the needs of other people. Sociopaths are driven by their own self-interest. They will do whatever it is they have to do to get them ahead in any particular situation. Sometimes they can be a bit of a con artist. Narcissists are more like a hurt child. Now, they have tantrums, lash out, they fake superiority to hide their inner pain, their inner turmoil. They would be what's known as ego-driven. Now, ego in the sense that a lot of that kind of behaviour, such as the lying, the gaslighting, the constant one-upmanship, the not taking responsibility for themselves, it's because of their ego, their self-concept they fear is under threat, it's at stake. So when these come together, what we often see is someone who has a lack of regard for the feelings and the needs of others, someone with a limited range of emotion. They don't really experience feelings of love and affection or emotions like guilt and shame the way others do. The only strong emotion they really feel seems to be anger, which often manifests itself as outrage whenever they're offended, or they're perhaps refused something they believe they're entitled to, or if they're not treated in a way they think they should be treated. And many narcissistic sociopaths would tend to have sadistic qualities, sadistic tendencies. They get a sense of satisfaction, pleasure even, from other people's suffering. And some people have described seeing a momentary yet very intense look of excitement on their face whenever they're causing hurt. And the impulsivity can make them unpredictable and dangerous in the sense that they have very destructive urges. Sometimes they may hurt, lie, deceive others, even when there's no real gain in it for them. So, some of the common characteristics and behaviours would include, firstly, being obsessed with power and control. Now, not just power and control over other people, but perhaps over projects, tasks, social events even. They can devalue and rubbish, maybe even at times try to sabotage anyone else's achievements or goals. And they can spend a lot of time and effort getting into positions of power and responsibility over other people. The obsession with power can make them relentless. They will climb over anyone in their way, discrediting the opposition, character assassination even. That obsession with their own power and control can often have them disrespect, sometimes not even acknowledge any other kind of authority now, whether that's their boss in work, or civic leaders, church leaders, or even the law of the land. Now, when in positions of power and responsibility, they rarely, though there can be exceptions, but they rarely make good leaders. They demand a perfection that doesn't exist. They demand others follow rules that make no sense, do tasks that have no real purpose, and can change their minds several times in just one conversation. Then there is a lack of morals, often described as having no moral compass, and a callousness in the sense that there can be little to no concept of what is right and what is wrong, and don't really care either, so there's no guilt either. For example, if they were caught stealing from work, it would be the organization's fault, the management's fault, they were at fault. If they were caught cheating on a partner, it would either be dismissed as not that big a deal, or they would blame their partner for not being enough, or for making them do it. They tend to see other people as either being useful to them, or being deserving of their malice. Now, they may hold on to relationships that are useful to them, but if they're no longer useful, or if a better offer comes along, they will dump them just like that. However, if they become useful again, they'll just turn up as if nothing happened. Next, they tend to see things in a very distorted way. And that distorted view of importance and grandeur, they believe they can do whatever they want. The rules only apply to other people. And whatever it is they want, no matter how malicious, illegal, or sadistic they are, they tend to show no remorse and can justify pretty much anything, and to hell with the casualties. Now, with narcissism, there is a belief that they are special and unique, and believe that others envy them. With sociopathic narcissism, this becomes something of a paranoia, that others are up to no good. They're out to get them, out to usurp them, out to take something from them, which can sometimes lead them to, if you will, preemptive strikes. They lash out and hurt. Which leads me on to the next common characteristic. They can be very dangerous whenever they feel threatened. They can become vindictive, malicious, even violent. With malignant narcissism, we often see a tendency to be very easily offended, and the offender has to be punished. And that offence could be something as simple as a blow to their ego, their self-esteem, something as simple as a different opinion, a disagreement. They can become very hostile, fly into a rage, threaten, or even be physically violent. Another common characteristic would be they get bored very easily. Bored with people, tasks, hobbies, so they just abandon whoever or whatever it is if they're no longer interested, no longer entertained. And they tend to seek out cheap thrills, instant gratification, if you will. Either that, or they find destructive outlets then, which can be very aggressive, impulsive, things like crime, violence, drug use, infidelity. And I think the low emotional range can be one of those reasons for the destructive behaviour. They get to feel something. And lastly for today, they tend to feed off negative energy. They feed off chaos, drama, and the pain and the humiliation of others. These things tend to excite them, and their targets often fear showing any sense of joy or accomplishment, anything that doesn't glorify them somehow, for fear of their wrath and punishment. They take pleasure wiping the smile off other people's faces in very cruel and vicious ways. And the malignant narcissist can be very dangerous to cross. Now, I said previously they can be sadistic, but also very vindictive. Their abuse doesn't seem to end even after you've tried to end the relationship, and a lot of times that's actually when it ramps up a gear. So that's a brief outline of the narcissistic sociopath, or the malignant narcissist. If you have any comments, anything I haven't included, by all means please feel free to use the comment box below. There are some interesting comments and conversations starting around these videos. But if you find this video interesting or helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel for future updates on mental health related topics. And until next time, thanks for watching.